All right, all right. Welcome into another edition of the Green Teamers podcast. It is me, James Scaramozzino, alongside Jake Seymour. Jake Seymour, studio host last night for the Celtics game. Celtics 114-111 loss to the Chicago Bulls on Derrick Rose night out there in Chicago, retiring Rose's number after the game. A nice little ceremony there. But Jake, kind of a tough loss for the Celtics. Initial thoughts is, back-to-back double overtime game on Friday night. Kind of a really quirky, weird game against the Brooklyn Nets. Almost get lucky. Joe Mazzulla with some, coach of the year type, uh, plays, substitutions there late in the game. We'll get to. But we're going to start with the Chicago game, 114-111 loss. I thought, once again, Jaylen Brown was great. He's doing everything for this team. This is a spot where we saw him kind of sit earlier in the season where he didn't play some of the back-to-backs, or at least, one or two that I can think of. And he's out there last night. Cade is out there again, two guys that were questionable, could have taken the night off, both out there. Really hard-fought game for the Celtics. Ugly, definitely ugly at times, especially in that fourth quarter. It felt like they had a real tough time getting their offense going. I have thoughts on that and the lineup that was out there. I know you do as well, as we were texting about it extensively last night. But Jake, you were in the studio last night, halftime and post game. What were your initial thoughts on this game? Another good game from Jaylen Brown, and something we've talked about. Kind of, I don't want to say the Celtics wasting another a very good Jaylen Brown game, because that's almost every night he's going to have one. But second night of a back to back, you show up with that effort and fall just short. Where were you post game last night?
Yeah, so post game last night, my I guess initial takeaway overall from the game was the fact that this was a game that is symbolic of where the Celtics are this season. Jaylen Brown plays great, everything looks good for him, and they're in it late, and the Celtics cannot come up and finish it late. And right now in the clutch, so the NBA defines the clutch as the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter or overtime when the score is within 5 points. The Celtics are 10-14 in the clutch. They're 18-3 in non-clutch games. So if they can blow out a team, they usually win those games, or I guess get out to a lead that's bigger than 5 points, at the end of the fourth quarter. I just think it's becoming to a situation where you're starting to really see the cracks of what it's been like for the Celtics to be without Tatum for so long. It's unfortunate that this is another game that's that example, especially coming off the double overtime game. And obviously it's difficult to win in the NBA. It's difficult to win on a second half of a back-to-back. It's extremely difficult to win on a second half of a back-to-back in the NBA coming off double overtime. So all three of those things come together and create a situation that makes it nearly impossible for the Celtics to, come away with a win in Chicago. I just think that this game really talked about how bad the Celtics team misses Tatum. Because late in the game in those situations, Tatum would have been the guy that would have helped create shots. You would have taken stress off Jaylen Brown. The Bulls would have had to respect Tatum as a scorer defensively. So now all of a sudden it goes from just the Jaylen Brown show to the Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum show. And that creates more opportunities for the Celtics scoring wise. And it's well for guys like White and Pritchard, who I'm at the point now, not just on White and Pritchard, but anybody on the Celtics team, maybe with the exception of Simons at times, they just can't create their own shots. They're not players that feel like they can work to create their own shots, and Tatum is the guy that needs to come back to help facilitate that because Brown can't do it all on his own.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the most glaring issue without Tatum, maybe outside of the rebounding, because Tatum was, I mean, he's their best rebounder, he's their best passer, he was their best player. So obviously, and when you're first team All NBA, it's more than a significant loss. That goes without saying. But I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to creating offense late in games when things tighten up. It was always Tatum, whether he was creating it himself or creating it for someone else. And you mentioned Pritchard and White, and it's something we've come back to time and time again on the podcast, is that they're just not the same guys without Tatum. And it is a little bit of a knock on them. It also speaks to just how good Tatum is and how much coverage, is, drawn to him when he's out there. And that's something that Mazzulla, I would say, has tried to adjust to. And you mentioned the clutch stats, and I should have asked you this before the podcast, Jake, but you mentioned they're 10-14 in the clutch. Is there any way to see where that ranks in the league in terms of, maybe not like 10 and 14, like, the wins, but percentage wise, like, their winning percentage in the clutch comparatively to the rest of the league? Um,
I'm just a quick search on NBA.com shows you can look at the wins and losses right now.
yep.
So it looks like the Celtics are 10 and 14, which is what I said. Where is it on this? That would be 19th in the league for wins.
For
They've
wins.
played more games, and obviously not every team plays the same amount of clutch games.
Yeah.
Depends on how the games go. So
Yep.
for contrast, though, Chicago has played tied for the most with 27 clutch games. The Celtics have played only 24. The Bulls are 16 and 11 in those 27 games.
See, that's wild. The Bulls, not a good team, and 16-11 in clutch situations. I almost don't really know how to interpret. Like, what is your first thought hearing that, Jake? That a bad team like the Bulls is good in the clutch?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could think of is that maybe it comes down to situations about where those games are being played. Like, are the Bulls having more games that are coming off, like the Celtics last night, on a good team, maybe on the second half of back-to-back, and because they're a lesser caliber team, they catch teams by surprise, I guess. Other than that, I mean, maybe it's also the fact that they can't, for the sheer volume of games, that they can't really blow out teams. That's something that isn't really within their arsenal because they got a lot of scores. Like, Chicago's not a bad team. They're just
No.
having to get the pieces together. They're hovering
Yeah.
around 500, kind of in the middle of the Eastern Conference. So they're not like the Washington Wizards or the
No.
Brooklyn Nets,
The Pelicans.
that level
Yeah.
of bad. But yeah, no, you're right. It is kind of surprising that they not only have a sheer volume of clutch games, but they're actually winning at a large amount as well.
Yeah, I think you once again, yeah, it is the sheer amount of games that they play that are just close games. I think that probably does have a lot to do with it. And just one thing on the Bulls, they do have some talent. Bazelis is going to be a player. Josh Giddey is certainly, a solid player in this league. Kobe White, UNC guy, you saw him play well last night. And I think it's, the Chicago Bulls do everything, Jerry Reinsdorf, kind of a disaster out there. But having Billy Donovan coach young guys, who would have thought that, that's actually kind of a good idea instead of having him coach, DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine for 5 years when they couldn't be less interested in him. No, the guy that was super successful in college, get him a couple of young players and, they play hard every once in a while. That's a bold strategy. But back to the Celtics. A few things from last night, because we were just talking about kind of creating offense. I was looking at this last night. Once again, Baylor Shireman 6 minutes. He gets put in the doghouse right away. Simon's 28. So something me and Jake kind of texted about, and Amari gets the start. We both wanted to see more of him. We could talk about that, but something we texted about last night when it comes to creating the offense. Peyton Pritchard's out late in that game for the final. I don't know. I want to say almost 5 minutes. He's out there. He's 4 of 10 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3, and 7 assists, only 1 turnover. Am I don't want to say out of line, but do you think it's a fair ask for Celtics fans to think that maybe when Pritchard isn't shooting well in those situations, or take Hauser too. Hauser's been shooting it well lately, so that's why I'm using Pritchard in this example, but do you think Simons or Ugo should get a look sometimes because they just need a guy that can create in late game situations?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair to say. I was actually texting you about this during the game. Is once we got to the final 5 minutes, which ironically is when the clutch starts, Peyton Pritchard's on the floor, and I texted you. I said I want Simons out there right now because he's scoring. He scored 21 points at this point, 8 of 60 from the field, 5 of 11 from 3. Very, very, very efficient night from Simons. And I feel like this happened too many times. We've talked about this a lot on the podcast, where it feels like Simons will come out and have an efficient shooting performance. He looks great offensively, and he gets pulled and yanked for the closing moments of the game. Now, sometimes those moments aren't a blowout, but a lot of times we've talked about it happening in these close games. And I understand that the Celtics will probably say, well, we want Pritchard out there because Pritchard has done a really good job this season of distributing the ball and limiting turnovers. But I would just say, if that's the case, personally, I'd rather have the guy who can create his own shot late in the game. Because you don't want to get into a situation where he's just hucking out threes. But I have faith that Derrick White and Jaylen Brown can each do what Peyton Pritchard's doing, and have another scorer on the floor. I mean, I think that's fair to say, Skaz, that Jaylen Brown and Derrick White can facilitate a little bit like Pritchard. And Pritchard, by the way, for a point guard, does not facilitate great. You can look at the stats on cleaning the glass on NBA Advanced Stats. He is just a below average point guard when it comes to facilitating and generating assists. You can tell me that the assist to turnover ratio is great, and you're right, it is great, but I'm telling you, his assist percentage is not good.
It's not. He's not a facilitator, never has been. He's a shoot-first point guard, which isn't a point guard. For people, he's not a true point guard, never has been, never will be. It's not who he is. And, I almost think they're kind of handcuffed because I think he's the only guy they trust to dribble. I genuinely feel that way. I think Derrick White, they also trust to dribble. And look, I think Jaylen Brown can facilitate. He can't dribble. He can. We're not going to do the whole left-hand thing. Jaylen Brown, Finals MVP, yes. But I really think that they don't want him bringing the ball up and down. I genuinely think that's a big reason why Pritchard is still out there in these situations. I think Simons is perfectly capable of it, and I want to see Ugo, get some run sometimes. I mean, for a 19-year-old rookie, he's every test they've put in front of him, he's pretty much passed. He's not. I'm not saying he's Luka or anything like that, but he's certainly impressed me, impressed everybody. Like Amari Williams, another guy who makes a huge play. The other night, he's been absolutely, lighting it up in Maine. The Celtics, University, Jake. Celtics University is another, A+ students coming up the pipeline. So
there we go.
Yeah.
Start the classes, baby. The second semester's rolling on. It's the new year.
Yeah, enroll now. It's tough to. The Celtics are first, I believe, in the Atlantic. The Knicks are one game behind them. We're not going to, freak out over, the Celtics 28-17, the Knicks 27-18. A loss on the second night of a back-to-back after double overtime. At least, and thankfully they got the win against Brooklyn. I think if they lose that double overtime game to Brooklyn, we feel, a little bit differently about this because they are 2-2 in their last four, which, isn't great for this team. And two of those losses, the Pistons, fine. You want to count that Monday night, you lose to the Pistons 104-103, I can take it. You shouldn't be losing to the Bulls in a normal circumstance. We're green team in here. Scheduled loss, Jake. Scheduled loss.
No, I mean, I think that's fair to say. I think it's fair to say it's a scheduled loss, especially with the double overtime. They definitely should have. If there wasn't the double overtime, I wouldn't be sitting here saying it was a scheduled loss. I know it's the second half of a back-to-back, but you shouldn't be losing to the Chicago Bulls under a back-to-back, normal game circumstances. The fact that it just comes on that second half of the double overtime game, completely understand. I get it. I want to circle back to Amari Williams really quick.
Real quick. Sorry. Would you like Joe Mazzulla, since the start of the Joe Mazzulla era, the Celtics record on back-to-backs?
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
So since the start of the Joe Mazzulla era, the Boston Celtics are 35-12 on the second night of a back-to-back, a 745 winning percentage. No team in the NBA has been better in that stretch. The Denver Nuggets are second in that time at 34-16, a 680 winning percentage. The Bucks at number 3 at 633. And then the Timberwolves and surprisingly the Trailblazers round out the top 5. But the Celtics, number 1, now they'd be 35-13. But an over 700 winning percentage under Joe Mazzulla on the second night of a back-to-back. I think he deserves a ton of credit for that. In a league where playing hard is, dismissed a lot of times and guys load management, the Celtics find 8 guys to play hard every night. Say what you want about the talent on the roster, but they do, and Joe has the buy-in. I was really impressed when I saw that stat. I think that's a good one for Mazzulla there.
Yeah, it's a great one for Mazzulla. One to definitely hang his hat on. So again, scheduled loss coming off double overtime.
There you go. Yeah, put it in the books.
Yeah.
You wanted to get to Amari, though. You wanted to get to Amari.
Yes, Amari Williams. So Williams he's been a two-way player for the Celtics this season, and I was clamoring right in the beginning of the season, guys. I don't know if you remember this, but I was sitting here saying, based on how the Celtics big man rotation was working out with Xavier Tillman, Chris Boucher, Neemias Queta, and Luka Garza, and this was before Luka Garza had his stretch of feeling to finally find his footing, I was sitting here saying, Why is Amari Williams not playing more? Amari Williams, rookie out of Kentucky, second round pick. He's 6'11", 250. I think, a perfect archetype for a big man. And for a Celtics team that really needed, it felt like at time more depth at the big man position, why not just see what he has? Because I was in the camp that Neemias Queta was playing well, not because Neemias Queta is a great basketball player, which he has been playing good, but rather the fact that he is filling a role and the Celtics are using him correctly. And the other big men are struggling to kind of find that, except for Luka Garza at times. So why not put the rookie out there and see what happens? You saw what happened to Hugo Gonzalez. They put him out there, and he succeeded. I'm not saying Williams is going to have the same success as a rookie as Gonzalez, but just put him out there. See what happens. And there have been times where he's gone out there for little stretches, little moments, and we haven't seen him for a full game. So Saturday afternoon, he's in Portland for shoot-around, and they fly him up from Portland, Maine to Brooklyn, New York, and he ends up suiting up for the Celtics. Comes in the very last moments of the game, has a clutch block, and the Celtics end up winning that game, largely in part because of Amari Williams and his defensive effort. So what does Joe Mazzulla do? He rewards him with the start, which I am all for. That's awesome. He played the first 6 minutes of the first quarter last night and didn't play again until late in the third quarter, where he recorded 4 minutes. He played 10 minutes the whole game. Now, Amari Williams is on a two-way deal, Skaz. So every time he plays in an NBA game, you're burning one of his eligible games. So this was the first time where it felt like he was going to have a prominent role. And I don't know if he did something that Mazzulla didn't like or if he rubs somebody the wrong way, but it felt like that this was finally the game we were going to see what Amari Williams could do. And instead he plays just 10 minutes as a starter.
Yeah, I think it's very frustrating from a fan perspective. This is a guy who broke the Kentucky assist record for got over 7 foot. I believe he had over 80 assists last year in the SEC, which is nothing to sniff at. He's a legit passer. He's a legit athletic big who can move the ball. Kentucky, they've had some pretty good guys that have played there. So for him to break the assist record, by a 7-footer, I would say good. I would say you want the Kentucky guy that broke the assist record on your team, and you probably want him on the floor. He's super athletic. I did hear, if I'm being completely fair, I did hear from some people early when he was drafted that they, they didn't love his his rebounding, maybe his a pure hustle, maybe. I don't know. I don't know exactly how to quantify it, because they love everything about his basketball instinct and all that. But I think they really thought there was something that needed to be fine tuned up in Maine, and hopefully that's been done, because I think he can help this team right now. I'm 100% with you. I don't think I felt that strongly at the beginning of the year. Looking back, I think I definitely agreed that he should be around the team, but I wasn't as gung-ho about it as you. But how could you feel any differently now when their big man rotation is Neemias Queta, Garza? It's just it's lackluster at best right now. We can get into Yves Missy and guys like that are around the league who they might be interested in. But I'm really glad you mentioned the Nets game, because sometimes we kind of just go over the last game and then breeze through them. But Joe Mazzulla, the Hugo play, a massive substitution. Michael Porter Jr. talks about it post game. A really good night, another good night for Mazzulla. It's been a good stretch for him. Coach of the Year talk starting to pick up, stuff like that. Just saw a fox run through my backyard. A lot going on here, Jake. A lot going on in the Celtics world, but they win an ugly, gross Brooklyn Nets throwing up on themselves type of game on Friday night. What are your thoughts on Mazzulla in that game? Ugo, hitting the shot. Amari Williams, your guy, getting the minutes. Where were you on Friday night?
Yeah, I think it was probably Mazzulla's best game we've seen him coach in a while. The mass substitution at the end, you throw in Hugo Gonzalez, who hits the corner three, and I read, too, that they were also, the Nets kind of went to a zone, and they read that. Mazzulla saw that. That's why Hugo Gonzalez got in there, and he just went to the corner, knocked down a three. You put Amari Williams in the game, he comes up clutch. It felt like there was a stretch there where everything that Joe Mazzulla did worked out perfectly for the Celtics. And I feel like we haven't seen that from Mazzulla a lot this season. And that was one of the biggest questions entering the season, is that how was Joe Mazzulla going to react and coach a team that wasn't filled with star players like your Jason Tatum's? Jaylen Brown obviously is here, but no Drew Holiday, no Kristaps Porzingis, no Al Horford. These were all questions that Mazzulla really had to answer for. And it felt like last night was the first time where he started pulling all the levers and was correct on every single pull. There have been moments where, don't get me wrong, this season where we've seen him pull a lever and it's worked out. But to pull every lever over a sequence and get it all right in a row, I thought was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, you don't see it that often in the NBA. Like, I feel like in the NBA, coaching is not, you don't see it in real time too often. It's usually, behind closed doors or, in a huddle after a timeout, an ATO or something like that. And I guess that was almost like an on the fly, ATO. There was no, whiteboard there. There was no, Sam Cassell. That was Mazzulla. And I'm sure they talked about it, but yeah, that's the stuff that, for all the the kind of heat that Joe takes for his quirkiness and stuff like that, like that's a legit moment. That's tangible. That's something that you can physically see. You can quantify that. That's a win. That's a win in the column. And it's not only a win. It's who did it? Amari Williams doing it. Ugo doing it. Like that lifts the locker room. That helps those guys. It's another step forward for their progress, the team. And I don't think that stuff does matter. It seems silly at times, but they need those moments. That's how you grow. That's how Hugo Gonzalez steps up in a playoff series, because he's been in a moment like that before. That moment's not too big for him because he's done it before. Like, it's little stuff like that. And Joe even said it wasn't exactly perfectly kind of designed for Hugo originally, but he was just leaked out to the right space at the right time. And you watch the replay, the Bulls defender kind of does the old like look. Oh man, he's forgot he was over there. And Sam Hauser's jumping through the net as the ball goes in. So yeah, kind of a good little moment there for the Celtics, and thankfully they hang on and get the win. So 2-2, kind of a disappointing week of Celtics basketball this season, which is good. That speaks to how good they've been. You get a lovely game on Peacock tomorrow night against the Portland Trailblazers. I'm sure everyone will be locked into that one.
Buckle off for that one.
Yes, Portland, an interesting team. Maybe.
Hey, they did beat the Celtics last time in Portland, so.
You know what? You're right, Jake. I should not take them lightly. They did, and then the Celtics ripped off like 5 straight wins after that. So who knows? But yes,
Adam, get right, Game Scaz.
Well, honestly, Portland might not be here. Who knows if Portland can get here by tomorrow night?
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if they're already here.
Yeah, I think they played last night, maybe. So you would hope they either came then or are on their way now, because who knows? Then they have Atlanta, Sacramento, and a Milwaukee team without Giannis next Sunday at 3:30. So that's 4 very, very winnable games there. I mean, Portland, Atlanta, Sacramento, Milwaukee. That might be the draft lottery next season. So the Celtics have the NBA draft lottery coming up this next week. They should go 4-0. I'm saying 4-0, Jake, next time we talk on Sunday. And I do just want to mention Jaylen Brown's last 5 games. 33 8-5, 27 10-12, 30 10-5, 32 11-2, 41 6-2. I believe he has officially moved into the top 3 in MVP voting and odds on most of your sports books there. Rightfully deserved. Jaylen Brown has been absolutely incredible this year. Jake, I think my internet's starting to cut out a little bit, and
nor'easter, man, it's coming in.
It's coming in. I gotta start shoveling. Final thoughts before we get out of here. I say Celtics 4-0. Jaylen Brown will continue his MVP assumption. And Jake, I'm going to say it. Out of these 4 games, I think Amari Williams starts 2 of them. For you.
Okay.
Just for you.
I like that prediction. Yeah, I like that prediction. I mean, especially with Portland coming in, they got a big man, Donovan Clingan. Yeah. I'd like to see more Amari Williams in that role. By the way, Amari Williams is averaging 17.3 points, 11.8 rebounds, and 4.4 assists in the G League this year. So he's averaging a double-double.
Yes.
Please get him more minutes.
Please.
The NBA roster.
Feed the man.
He's playing too well not to garner that kind of respect. Granted, I think it's only been in 9 games in the regular season. They also have a tip-off tournament, which I don't even.
Jake, come on, the tip-off tournament, bud. You don't know. You're not.
He has 10 games played there, 12 points and 10.9. Again, averaging another double-double. So get this man minutes, please. Anyways,
please.
Portland I think is probably already here. I just looked at their schedule. They played Friday night in Portland. They played Toronto Friday night at home.
So they're here.
They should be out here already. Probably at some nice 4-star or 5-star hotel. Probably enjoying themselves in the. Actually, speaking of this, this is a funny story. Maybe think of it with the snow coming in. Grandy was doing his coach's interview with Mazzulla, and I was producing it. This was over the holiday break, and Grandy asked him this on the interview. So I'm not saying anything out of ass here, but in the hotel in Portland, there was a shower that I guess they called it the snow shower, and it was I don't really understand what it was. Mazzulla didn't explain it, but he asked Grandy if he had tried it, and Grandy was like, no. So during his pregame interview that Grandy does with Mazzulla every game, he asked Mazzulla about the snow shower, and why would he want to try that, and Mazzulla's response was, "Why wouldn't you want to try it?" And Crane's like, "All right, I guess we have different, definitions of fun and interesting, I guess."
Yeah.
But I don't know, something funny with the snowstorm coming in and playing Portland again. Maybe think of it.
But love that.
You're right, Skaz. Coming out for the Celtics, Portland, Atlanta, Sacramento should be easy 3 wins. That Milwaukee Sunday game maybe is a little bit different. It's a Sunday afternoon game on ESPN. You've really seen the NBA try to take advantage of the first weekend without NFL football. So maybe there's a little bit difference there. It's a different time, different routine, different rhythm. And then, of course, it's Milwaukee, so you got Giannis coming in. So
he's out. He's out.
Oh, he's out.
He's out.
Okay, no Giannis then.
He told Shams, "I'm done for 4 to 6 weeks." So who knows?
He's out. Okay, so
he's out.
Okay, 4-0 then. You're right.
4-0. Book it. Put it in.
I missed the Giannis thing. When did that happen?
Shams tweeted it. Yeah. It was. It was either.
Oh yeah, yesterday. Look at that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, my bad. Missed that.
No. It kind of
NBA news yesterday.
Yeah. But so yeah, he's getting traded. I think. I don't even know if he'll be on that team.
4 to 6 weeks actually lines up perfectly with the deadline. So yes, he's done.
All done. See you later, Milwaukee. Sorry, Doc.
Sorry,
love
Felger.
you, mean it, but yeah, sorry, Felgy. Jake, that's all I got for this week. Celtics 4-0. We'll do it again next week. Maybe we'll do a little bit more big picture NBA stuff, dive into the trade deadline next Sunday, 3:30 game. So maybe we'll do a Green Teamers after that, depending on our schedules, but a little post game, a little trade deadline stuff. Everybody stay safe from the storm. Jake, you as well. Safe travels if you got to go anywhere. Happy shoveling, everybody. And we'll do it all again next week. Jake, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.